This is Daphne Moore, contributor with Cascade Media, and today we have Kevin Wilson. How you doing, Kevin?
Good, Daphne. How you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. I am excited for our listeners and viewers to hear what you have to say. You have a great career in helping small businesses, entrepreneurs, and many other things. And so I'm excited to make sure people know about you and how they can reach you and all those good things. So, can you kind of tell people about your journey in this entrepreneur small business space and how the Small Business Empowerment Center came about?
First of all, thank you for having me today. I appreciate it. So my story, I guess it started years ago. I'm a recovering SBA loan officer, right? And so I used to do SBA lending for the St. Louis Development Corporation back in the 90s. And I got picked up by the Greater St. Louis Empowerment Zone and to manage their revolving loan fund and do underwriting and things like that. And so for the viewers here, the Empowerment Zone are federally designated distress census tracts throughout the country, and St. Louis, East St. Louis, and St. Louis County has some designated census tracts, which we call the Empowerment Zone. We did loans and bonds and things of that nature there within that geography. And then the Greater St. Louis Empowerment Zone sunsetted in about like 2009, and we were trying to figure out what we were going to do with the loan portfolio. And so I started the Small Business Empowerment Center to park that loan fund in there. So the Small Business Empowerment Center initially was a revolving loan fund. But then over the years, it morphed and changed, and we kept winning some grants and programs and partnerships, and I started doing this work full time with the as executive director in probably 2018, something like that.
Okay,
So
cool.
yeah,
I
so
never
been
knew the
in.
backdrop.
Well, there you go. So yeah, been in economic development, finance, and technical assistance, providing for over 20 years. So yeah.
So, speaking of that, you worked with SBA for over 20 years. Can you talk about some of the common challenges you see with entrepreneurs and small businesses, and how do you help overcome those obstacles?
Yeah. So it varies based on who we're talking about. But overall, I would say, some of those challenges are a lack of planning. You know, people without a vision perish, right? Lack of money, resources, and which is strange to me, but also a lack of confidence in that they could succeed in small business, right? And so we we have in the Small Business Empowerment Center and our strategic partners, whether that's the University of Missouri Extension through America's SBDC, the Small Business Administration, the St. Louis Development Corporation. We partner with a lot of folks to provide some of these services, whether that is in the terms of and lack of planning. We have business planning classes and tools such as Live Plan to help them come up with a business plan. When it comes to lack of money, we do encourage everyone to save their pennies and their nickels when they're trying to start a business. But if they're looking for, a loan, we have the capability of helping them figure out which lender is best for them, which program works for them. And then, when it comes to their lack of confidence in their ability to run a business, we also do one-on-one coaching and technical assistance to help them overcome their fear, their anxieties, and help them with that gut check at the end of the day.
Can you talk about how important it is to have a business coach? Because a lot of people don't think they need a business coach. They do life coaching,
Yeah.
but when it comes to their business, it's often lacking. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Uh, yeah, absolutely. So I think we all need coaches in different aspects of our
Right.
life. You know, to your point, you know, some of us need life coaching. Like you know, what do I do in this situation? And having folks around you that help guide you through some of these challenges is amazing. And I would say in terms of business coaching, you know, I think a lot of small business owners have all these ideas in their head. They you know, like, I can do this, but they really don't know how to execute it. And many times they do need a business coach, whether that is industry specific or general. Everybody needs some coaching. I mean, I've got coaches, right? So
Cool. Can you also talk about, you all offer a lot of services. So can you talk about some of those services you offer? I know startup versus some of the businesses that have been trying to grow, and then those established businesses. So what type of services, if I'm coming in, do you offer?
great question, Daphne. So, you know, I look at the Small Business Empowerment Center like Five Guys, you know, hamburger restaurant, you know, where they got burgers, fries, and sodas. Well, I say that we do access to SBA lending, access to SBA certifications and contracts, and we do coaching. In those three categories, you know, generally, you know, access to capital, we help folks navigate how much money they need, when they're ready to go after a loan, because you're not everybody's not loan ready, right? And so we
Right.
do coaching around that. We also help folks understand how to do business with, you know, in their industry, but also with the federal government and state and local government, because there are a lot of opportunities out there that small business owners just don't take advantage of. And then under our coaching category and technical assistance, we have programs like, you know, we utilize Live Plan and Growth Wheel and the Strategic Management Learning System. So we have a lot of different tools that we utilize to help small business owners get those wraparound services they need to grow their business.
Okay. So you work with tax credits, SBA, small growth business strategies, lending with other nonprofits. Can you kind of talk about how the importance of entrepreneurs having a solid understanding of finances, and like what advice, if someone is seeking funding for their business, do you first start off giving them?
Great question. So, number one, I think it is, to answer your first question, I think it is absolutely essential for every small business owner to know their financial position, where they are, where they want to go, right? Where are you starting off, right? Many times I'll ask a small business owner, it's like, hey, did you make some money last year? And they're like, yeah, I think so. You're like, you think, or do you know, right? And so most of the times they're kind of guessing. They they think they made money if it's some money in the bank, right? But you know, as you know, even when you have a job, you can look at your bank account on a Monday and is a lot of money in there, and then all of a sudden all the bills are paid on Tuesday, and you're broke on Wednesday, right? And
Right.
so, you know, but at least you got a gig, right? Whereas in the small business, you gotta be hustling every day, getting out there and making the money, and you need to know on a high level what balance sheet and income statements are, and the importance of cash flow. Um, Without it, there's a high propensity for failure when you don't know where you are financially. And so I always encourage small business owners and entrepreneurs to know what the burn rate on cash is. And the one question I always ask every small business owner, how much does it cost for you to open your doors in a day? Right? What if it costs you $200 just to open your doors in a day? Clearly you need to make more than $200 in the day, right? And
True.
so a lot of small business owners don't even know how much money they need to make in a day to be successful.
That makes sense. Can you talk about? I've often heard you say, "Do you have a hobby, or is it actually a small business?" And so,
Yeah.
can you kind of talk about those things? Like a lot of us have hobbies, but we
Yeah.
really don't have a small business or entrepreneur business yet. So, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. And let me first say there's nothing wrong with a good hobby. A little hobby, you get excited when you're doing your hobby, and other people celebrate you when you're doing your hobby. But a hobby is not a business, right? It's just, it's something that you're doing, and it may or may not make money, and
Right.
if you put more money in than it's making, you know, that what the IRS says, if you don't make money with for like 3 or 4 years in your
Yeah.
business, you're just a hobby, right? And so we want to make a hobby into a business, and that is planning, is strategic planning, is having an accountant, is learning how to sell. It is all the things that any business owner needs to know, right?
Okay. Can you talk about some of the successes that stand out to you? I know you work with so many small businesses and entrepreneurs, and you like, how did that their ideal go from the ideal to kind of thriving?
Yeah, and I won't get into specific names because I
Okay.
haven't gotten clearance for some of these clients. But in general, I've seen clients come up with, a barbecue sauce, for instance, and they work that process till they've got, and I think it started off kind of like just a little hustle, kind of a hobby, but then he realized, oh, this is a thing, and then started figuring out a manufacturing process, and then mastering the art of selling these products and being able to mass produce them in scale, right?
Okay.
And that is one of the things I think that a lot of small business owners and entrepreneurs don't really grab hold to, is that you have to create a business that lives and breathes on its own. So it has to be bigger than just you. You have to involve others. It needs to be a team. And I'm not talking about 1099s. I'm talking about employees that are invested in the life of that business. And so, but I think it does start with an idea and a passion for that idea, and a need to want to deliver a product or service that meets a need in the marketplace. It solves a problem that someone has.
Okay. So I want to talk about like small business and entrepreneurship has changed tremendously since COVID.
Oh yeah.
And I know that you were on the forefront of helping small businesses during that time. Can you kind of talk about, like, one, what was it like to deal with that experience, and then also how things are shifting now in the industry?
Yeah. So you were right there with me. So I mean,
I was.
we were on the front lines with a lot of others trying to help these small business owners navigate the pandemic and survive, right? And I think one of those major things was technology that helped them to be able to do business virtually, to be able to take orders. I think what we all learned is how to have a resiliency plan, right? Like if our supply chain is cut off, what do we do? And so thinking about, you know, the the unexpected challenges that pop up, whether that is weather, a disease, a pandemic, whatever it is,
Right.
it's being prepared for those things is key. And it's hard to prepare the day before, right? You need to prepare now.
That part.
You need to save money to be ready for those challenges, those disasters, because in the moment of, you're waiting for somebody to bail you out, it could take a long time.
It can it can take a long time.
Yeah.
So let's talk more about technology and the digital business model, because we both work with MasterCard on their digital platform to get businesses ready. Can we talk about how important in 2024 that technology and that digital space in small business and entrepreneur is? Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. And this is coming from a person who really dislikes social media. I mean, I don't do a lot on it, but I gotta have people around me who do it for me, right? But I will say this, social media, technology platforms, all of those things, marketing tools are essential for any small business now. You have to be prepared to do business not only in your local community, but around the world, right? It is a competitive world market now. Now you could be making clothes here in St. Louis and be selling them in Africa, right? And so who is your customer and how do you
Right.
get to them? And I think technology, these technology platforms have been amazing to help small business owners broaden their reach, to build in efficiencies, to help them work better, quicker, smarter, with less, fewer employees, and then they're picking up more technology-based employees these days,
Yeah.
right, who are managing the technology. So it can definitely help a small business owner move faster, quicker, sell more, take orders online. I don't know a business that couldn't use some form of technology.
Agreed, agreed. Can you talk about, you're very active in a lot of organizations, and can you talk about the importance of those organizations, partnerships, as far as being a part where you might get funding or build a relationship with a corporation, and how that translates to helping other small businesses and entrepreneurs?
Yeah. So I'm a I'm a son of an entrepreneur, right? You said my father was, owned businesses. All my uncles and aunts, a lot of them owned businesses, and so to answer your question, networking is an essential part of being a business owner. You cannot just be sitting at home in your basement thinking business is going to find you. You got to go out and get it, right? You got to go out every day, go and find that business, meet new customers, solve their problems in the way they want them solved, at a price point that they want them solved. And I think being out there networking, being part of groups, whether those are associations or different networking groups, are essential for keeping your leadership skills up, learning best practices, knowing the newest trends that are coming down the line. I join a lot of associations just for those best practices and the trend reports, right? I know what's coming down the line from a technology perspective or a market perspective so that I'm prepared and able to position our organization to take advantage of what's coming down the line.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So if I had an idea,
Mm-hmm.
what would you say would be my first step if I'm unsure how to move forward with that ideal that I have?
Great question. So there is one of the cheapest and most efficient things is planning, right? Takes you a little time, maybe some paper, maybe a little electricity on your computer, right? But planning, whether that is doing something as simple as the business model canvas, just seeing who your customers are. One of the things on all new business ideas, I always ask the client, who is the customer and how do you know that's your customer? And customer discovery is huge, right? If you can't go and ask strangers, whether they would buy your product or service, chances are you're not going to have a good run at running a business if you can't ask the question, right? Like,
Right.
is this something you would buy? And if you would, how much would you pay? And so that customer discovery is an essential part, and that is part of the planning process, right? I do encourage everyone, if you're doing business model canvas or a business plan, have a plan. Understand what the pitfalls are before you start, and anticipate some of them, and then what is your answer to those challenges that will arise, right? And then
Right.
and then there's always going to be ones that you don't know of, right? And still being prepared for that, right? But I also think, there's no such thing as luck. It is just being prepared for random opportunities, right? And so being prepared, right? Opportunities pop up all the time, but if you're not ready, if you don't have your money, if you don't have a plan, you don't have employees, and it's like, ooh, I see this big opportunity, but I haven't the resources, the know-how, the tools to take advantage of it, it's hard to do it the day of.
That's true. That's true. Can you talk about what qualities or mindset um, makes a successful entrepreneur or sets people apart versus those who struggle?
So number one is always the gut check, right? You gotta have it in your bones that you are a small business and an entrepreneur. It is way easier to have a job. I mean, it's just easy. You show up at 8, you leave at 5. You don't have to think about it at night, right? But as a small business owner, it's got to be in your guts. You got to want to do this 24/7, working hard at it, growing the concept, the business. You have to be an organizer. You got to be able to organize your business, the people who are helping you. You got to have a passion for it. It's nothing worse than seeing a small business owner who hates what they're doing, right?
Mm.
I see it every once in a while, like, wow, you seem very miserable. And like, I am, because I really don't like doing it. It's like, we'll get a job, right? It's just but yeah, you gotta be passionate. You can't be afraid of uncertainty. There is a certain bravery that one has to have to be a small business owner, and you got to have faith in yourself. And then when I quit my job, one of my close friends, he said, I don't know if I should quit this job. And he said, dude, are you going to bet on them or yourself? And I said, that's right. And so I made that bet on myself, right? And so I think that's where everybody has to come to is like, are you willing to bet on yourself and then be willing to do continuous improvement on yourself and your leadership skills to lead that organization?
That's great advice. Can you talk about this is my final question. Can you talk about what's next for the Small Business Empowerment Center? Like, what are your goals? Like I said, I know you help so many entrepreneurs and small businesses. So what's next?
Great question. As the Small Business Empowerment Center evolves, right? I think we're going, in some ways, I think we're going to go back to our roots in terms of becoming again a revolving loan fund, in a more robust way. I think we're entertaining the idea of becoming a certified development finance institution. We're in that process of putting that application together. We also are toying with the idea of expanding to other empowerment zones around the country, right? And so the need is there, and I think there's opportunity there too.
Okay. Can you tell? I normally don't do this, but can you tell people how they can reach you? Because I think that as our small community, business and entrepreneurship community grows, we know that COVID showed that there is a great, great need for our small businesses to get help,
Mhm.
and they need to know that there are resources to help, and you're one of the great ones in our region, and you work with difficult people. And
You're
so,
very kind.
and so I think it's important that people know how to get in contact with you.
Sure. I think the easiest way is our website, which is www.stlewisSBEC.org. Once again, that's stlewisSBEC.org. You can sign up for our services right from this website, and also has our events and classes that are coming up, and so and other useful tools. And we have free webinars and coaching and counseling and networking events. So yeah, I think our website is it's the best way of reaching us.
All right, you all have the information now. So thank you so much for being my guest today.
Thank you for having me.
And I'll leave you all with this. Conversations matter, so let's talk.
This is brought to you by Kansas City Business Association, working to improve our community.